This is Plant-Based Briefing. What is nutritional yeast and is it good for you? Part 2 by Ocean Robbins at foodrevolution.org. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson, and this is the Plant-Based Podcast where I curate, get permission, and narrate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And today's article is longer than that, so it's a two-parter. I read part 1 yesterday, so go back and listen to that first, and then come back here today for part 2. So now let's get to today's Plant-Based Briefing. What is nutritional yeast, and is it good for you? Part 2 by Ocean Robbins at foodrevolution.org. Is nutritional yeast good for your gut? S. cerevisiae, the yeast strain found in nutritional yeast, also has benefits for your gut health. Research shows this type of yeast has probiotic activity in the body, helping treat and protect against gastrointestinal disease by reducing inflammation. Yeast, like other probiotic-rich fermented foods, is good for your digestion and helps keep you regular while preventing diarrheal illness. One recent 2022 study even concluded that S. cerevisiae could serve as an alternative method for treating bacterial and fungal infections, especially in the presence of antibiotic resistance. Since antibiotics don't discriminate against microbes and impact your entire microbiome, this is a welcome potential line of defense that can help shore up, not destroy, beneficial gut flora. Are there any nutritional yeast dangers you should be aware of? Nutritional yeast offers a lot of benefits to your health, but does it have any downsides? Here are a few things to be aware of. B vitamin excess. Nutritional yeast naturally contains niacin, which can cause a reaction called niacin flush if consumed in excess. High doses of niacin may also interact with certain medications and potentially weaken their effects or worsen the symptoms of niacin flush. However, you'd have to use significantly more nutritional yeast than the recommended serving size for niacin to have these effects. There is also a phenomenon that can occur from eating vitamin B2 or riboflavin in excess, neon yellow urine. Bragg nutritional yeast provides 240% of the daily value for vitamin B2 in 1 tablespoon, and other brands are similar. B vitamins are water-soluble, meaning that when you eat them in large amounts, your kidneys will excrete whatever your body doesn't need. This results in yellower than normal vitamin B-rich urine. For some people, the color change can be pretty dramatic. That's right, not only do you have to make a mental note of when you eat beets, no, you're not bleeding to death, you just ate beets last night, you also may want to keep track of any substantial nooch consumption. That way you won't be alarmed the next day by a pee stream that practically glows in the dark. GMO nutritional yeast. Some nutritional yeasts may be grown on beet molasses or other mediums that could be bioengineered. About 90% of the sugar beets in the United States are the result of genetic engineering. Some nutritional yeast brands state that they are non-GMO, but unless they are USDA certified organic, or the equivalent in other countries, it is still possible that they have in some cases been grown on a substrate that had GMO origins. Many nutritional yeast brands tell us that independent testing finds no presence of any GMO protein or DNA in the yeast, and some say that it isn't found in the substrate either. I'm inclined to believe them, but it's also possible that this is because the substrate is highly refined, and it could conceivably still have some source materials like sugar beets or corn sugar, which were genetically engineered. I haven't been able to get a direct answer about this from the manufacturers I've contacted, but this could be a point of concern for some. If you want to be 100% sure your nutritional yeast is GMO-free, you may want to go with a certified organic option. Both Star West Botanicals and Bragg make fortified organic nutritional yeast. If you want one that's not fortified, Sari Foods and Foods Alive and Dr. Joel Fuhrman all make non-GMO options that are free of added vitamins. Why some people should probably avoid nutritional yeast. You will probably want to avoid nutritional yeast if you have a yeast allergy, for obvious reasons. Similarly, if you have celiac disease or severe gluten intolerance, you might want to call the manufacturer of the brand of your choice to inquire about their testing processes. You can also look for a nutritional yeast brand that has been certified gluten-free through independent verification. Nutritional yeast is grown on a carbohydrate, and occasionally the medium contains grains. Therefore, cross-contamination with gluten can sometimes occur. Additionally, individuals with Crohn's disease should avoid nutritional yeast. The original study linking yeast to Crohn's disease, published back in 1988, found that people with Crohn's disease had increased antibodies to yeast, and after placing Crohn's patients on a yeast-free diet, Even reintroducing a quarter teaspoon caused a significant recurrence of symptoms. In 1992, another study found that Crohn's patients with elevated yeast antibodies had higher disease activity when given small yeast capsules. Since then, there have been many other studies with similar results. While it's unclear what exactly the causation link is between yeast and Crohn's disease, yeast reactivity is high in Crohn's, so it's wise to avoid all forms just to be safe. Lastly, some nutritional yeast varieties come fortified with folic acid, which is the synthetic form of vitamin B9. Folate is the natural form. While B9 can be beneficial, folate and folic acid function very differently in the body. You may want to avoid nutritional yeast fortified with folic acid, especially if you have a MTHFR genetic mutation, which can cause impaired folic acid metabolism. Although people with the MTHFR mutation are at risk for folate deficiency, the best form to take would be 5-MTHF, not regular folic acid. For more on the different forms of vitamin B9 and the difference between folic acid and folate, see this article linked here. Nutritional yeast myths. You might also run across a couple of misconceptions about nutritional yeast if you surf too many evidence-deficient websites. Nutritional yeast and candidiasis. One myth about nutritional yeast is that consuming too much of it will cause yeast overgrowth in your body. This actually can't happen because nutritional yeast is inactivated, and it doesn't contain Candida albicans. Further, the S. cerevisiae yeast has been proven to be a remedy in treating certain chronic infections and has never been shown to be pathogenic for humans. In fact, it's the 7th most prescribed herbal medication in Germany. Nutritional yeast and MSG. Because of its natural umami flavor, nutritional yeast is sometimes thought to contain monosodium glutamate, MSG. All yeast-based products contain glutamic acid, a naturally occurring amino acid. However, MSG is made by chemically altering glutamic acid to create an isolated sodium salt for flavor enhancement and is a documented food additive. While glutamic acid and its ionized form glutamate and MSG are similar, they don't behave the same way in the body, and true MSG has to be added to foods because it's created in a lab. Although MSG is produced in a similar way as nutritional yeast, it's made from a different strain of bacteria, and nutritional yeast does not contain MSG. How to find and use nutritional yeast. Now that you know all about this unique ingredient, what do you do with it? You can find nutritional yeast in a shaker container, a bag, or sometimes in the bulk section at natural grocery stores. Depending on where I shop, I found it stocked with the health foods, in the baking aisle, in the supplements section, and even mixed in with the condiments. To preserve its vitamins and minerals, store nutritional yeast in a cool, dry place like your refrigerator. You can store it in its original packaging or an airtight container. Glass jars and silicone bags work nicely. When stored properly, nutritional yeast can last for up to 2 years. Nutritional yeast goes well with many hot and cold dishes. Many people use it in place of Parmesan cheese. I mix nutritional yeast into soups, stews, homemade bread doughs, and salad dressings, and even sprinkle it onto salad, pizza, and avocado toast. It also works well in creamy, cashew-based cheese sauces and as a light seasoning for air-popped popcorn. Some die-hard fans even enjoy the savory flavor it adds to smoothies. To explore the many ways to use nutritional yeast, check out our other article featuring 7 nutritional yeast recipes linked here. Nutritional yeast for the win. I think of nutritional yeast as the hush-hush culinary secret of plant-based eaters. Not only does it offer an abundance of vital nutrients, but it also supports immunity and can help protect us from diseases. And on top of all that, when used well, it adds some pretty fantastic flavor. So keep a bottle in your car, purse, briefcase, or backpack and become a nooch evangelist to your friends. Once they're hooked, they'll understand how all those veggies you eat can be so delicious. You just listened to What is Nutritional Yeast and Is It Good for You? By Ocean Robbins at foodrevolution.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, your host, and we use a ton of nooch in our house. I make so many homemade sauces and cheese sauces and different things, and salad dressings that I'm using it all the time. I don't even know what all I put it in off the top of my head, but I was pleasantly surprised to read this and learn how good it is for you because it sure tastes good. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.